Hello, welcome to Latter-day Profiles. I'm Brian Howard. Today we're actually in Idaho Falls. We're with Jason Wright, and he's here for Time Out for Women. You may know him as the author of Christmas Jars and the Wednesday Letters, among others. Also runs a website, politicalderby.com, among probably a lot of other things, blogs and such. Good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Well, I wanted to start out with probably a question you get a lot. As a writer, how did you get into being a writer? How did that come about?
Oh, that's a great first question. I wrote a little book when I was in the 6th grade called When Sharks Attack. It was 7 pages long with illustrations in one paragraph about 7 different types of sharks. And I had so much fun doing it, I thought I want to publish. So I sent it off to some publishers. You know, most of it was handwritten and the drawings were sloppy. And I got a note back from Simon & Schuster saying, we really appreciate your submission, but this isn't quite what we're looking for, but keep writing and we'll maybe hear from you down the road. And that whole experience, believe it or not, sort of lit the fire, and it took me a little while throughout my professional career to get back to writing because I knew that's what I always wanted to do. And finally my wife said, you know, remember that book you wrote in the 6th grade? Maybe it's time to go back to writing, so here we are.
How did you get the idea in the 6th grade to send it off to Simon & Schuster? Where would you come up with that? I would have never thought about that. I would have handed it to my mom, and that would have been, you know, as good as it got at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. I used to go to the library, and I used to look at the names on the front of the books and just think, how cool would it be to be in a library or in a bookstore with your name on the front and your name on the spine, and to know that you had created something that would last beyond your time on this earth. And that always, for whatever reason, sort of appealed to me. And then I remember actually sending it off because I stole some of my mom's stamps because I was pretty sure she'd say no if I asked her. And sure enough, when I got the letter back from Simon & Schuster and I told her what had happened, she like, you took my stamps? But it was a good experience, and it lit the fire. And you know, in all my different stops professionally, I have done a small portion of writing. It's always been a part, I guess, of my job description here and there, and I found a way to gravitate to it. But it's only been recently that I've been writing full-time, and so it feels like I've come back to the 6th grade, I guess.
What are some of those stops in between becoming pretty much a full-time author that's got some best-selling books to, you know, to whatever you started in the 6th grade? What have you done in the meantime?
How much time do we have? We got enough time for this?
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
Let's see, I was the Easter Bunny at the mall in high school with the big hat and the sweaty in my armpits. It was
I love
terrible.
to have pictures of that.
Yeah, we might want to talk about that. I worked at a pizza parlor. I worked at an ice cream parlor. I sold tickets over the telephone to a blind circus between high school and my mission. I ran for Congress in Utah in the 3rd District against Chris Cannon in 2000, and I worked in the video business, owned a couple of video stores, got into the wireless business, owned a cell phone store in Pleasant Grove. And as I said earlier, you know, at each one of these stops, was sales director for a software company in Provo, Utah. I always tried to find a way to make writing a part of my job description, whether it was brochures or website copy. I would write my own, you know, little snippet on the back of my business cards, and that I was just always drawn to that, no matter any of these crazy sorts of jobs I've had. And then in 2000, that campaign for Congress sort of ignited some political interest in me, and I took a job with a think tank in Washington, D.C. Moved my wife and kids out to D.C., and we've been there ever since. And then a couple of years ago, I started to write my first book in between teaching early morning seminary and going off to work at the think tank. And it was that got me thinking, maybe it's time to actually write full-time, and I'm very blessed to be doing what I'm doing.
Let me ask you a little bit about the political aspirations. Now, how did that come about? Because a lot of us complain about our choices, but very few actually threw a hat in the ring. What motivated you to try it?
Well, a lot of people complained about their choices the year I ran, I assure you. Who's this guy, and why is he running for Congress? You know, I don't know, your viewers, if they're savvy political watchers, they may know that the year 2000 was a very dynamic year in Utah, where you had an extremely popular governor in Mike Leavitt, former Governor Mike Leavitt, and he was facing 8 challengers for the nomination. Orrin Hatch was facing challengers. There was a challenger against the incumbent in every race except for the 3rd District against Congressman Cannon. And I looked at Congressman Cannon's record, and I liked him a lot personally. We remain friends today. In fact, I ran into him in an airport recently, and we chatted for quite a while. A good guy, but I disagreed with him on a few key issues, and I thought, you know what, if no one else is going to put their name on the ballot next to his, I will. So I ran a very lean campaign. My little slogan was that I would spend more money on groceries than billboards, because I think he outspent me about 20 to 1. But maybe down the road we'll take a look at that again. He beat me pretty handily, but a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything, and maybe down the road we'll see if that fire comes back.
Is that where politicalderby.com
Yeah.
came about? Tell me a little bit about that, what the content is on that website.
Well, you know, we started the website, an old high school buddy of mine, Stephen Fountain, in 2005, and it was sort of the offshoot of a lunch. We were sitting in a restaurant talking about politics, and we were talking about 2008, 3 years early. And we thought, you know, are there other people as dorky as we are that are this interested in a race that's 3 years away? And so we thought, let's throw a website up and let's start ranking the candidates for president. So we came up with what we call the 2008 White House Power Rankings. So we ranked the top 10 Republicans and the top 10 Democrats, you know, on each side, with a funny little blurb about each one and why, sort of like a horse race, you know, which horse is in the lead. And we put it up there thinking that over the course of maybe a couple of years it would increase in popularity and some folks might find it, and we were stunned at how many people were interested in the race that early. Traffic went through the roof right off the bat, and it's been sort of a wild ride since, and it's opened up some doors for me to do some TV appearances as a political pundit, where I get to pretend like I know what I'm talking about, even though clearly I don't. It's been a lot of fun, met a lot of interesting people, and as I said, opened up some doors. Let me talk about my real passion, my #1 passion, the one that pays the bills, and that's writing novels.
Yeah. Before I wanted to ask you about the novels, I want to ask you, I noticed going to your website, I've seen a lot of pictures of you meeting a lot of very interesting people. Tell a little bit about that, maybe some of the people that you've been able to meet because of that, and some that stand out in your mind.
Oh boy, those that stand out in my mind. I had the great privilege of meeting President Bush when I worked at this political think tank in D.C., and that remains really one of the highlights of my professional life, to sit at a conference room table with the president. This was shortly after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And it was a rush. I felt the spirit when he walked in the room and sat down. That's how powerful it was. Now, not everyone at the table agrees with him politically, but everyone at the table agreed that it was a really moving experience because you're sitting with the President of the United States. That was a real highlight for me. I've had the opportunity to meet some interesting television personalities. By pure happenstance, I've got to develop a relationship with Glenn Beck, who is probably familiar to a lot of to your loyal viewers. And we've developed a friendship over the last couple of years and done a few projects together, and he's been very supportive of my career and helping to sort of push me along and give me a little momentum in the national marketplace as an LDS writer. And he's one of the neatest, probably, TV personalities I've ever had an opportunity to meet. He is as genuine and warm and funny off camera as he is on camera.
We're fortunate enough to actually get him to interview with us, which, you know, we're lucky we get a few people like yourself who come and talk with us every once in a while, which we greatly appreciate.